Welcome to 𝐒𝐨𝐬𝐢𝐴, the go-to source for the latest insights and analysis on the energy commodities market. Led by two industry veterans, Bill Shanahan and Brian Pieri, as they host their weekly commodity market recap. With over 55 years of combined experience in the energy sector, Bill and Brian bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to the table. From trading and hedging to finance and optimization, they have seen it all and are here to break down the latest market trends and share their insights. So sit back, relax, and get ready to dive into the world of energy commodities with Bill and Brian on 𝐒𝐨𝐬𝐢𝐴.
How much did we have to pay that guy? That sounded pretty good.
I don't know. I tell you what, he sounded like a canned voice, but hello, folks, man. Let me tell you, we are glad to be here today. Hey, Brian, you know what? Every fall, and as I try to rearrange the things that are in my closet,
Right.
it all just comes flying out. It doesn't matter what I do. It's just all sitting there.
Flying
You
out of the
know,
closet?
yeah, because it's just I got too much stuff in there that it just builds up, and then finally, when you open the door, Lord knows what's going to come out. The fact is, I sort of refer to it as having, 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag, is what my granddad used to always say.
You sit on a throne of lies.
So, what happens when we do that with natural gas?
Well, you know what? We were going to talk about that. So this is the topic of the week. Can we run out of natural gas storage? And ironically, we came up with this topic on Monday, and I got an email from NGI, who is hosting a live stream or something about more pipeline storage capacity desperately needed to support the next wave of LNG. And if you look at a BCF a day of things that are coming, Corpus Christi, Golden Pass, Port Arthur, Plaquemines, and Rio Grande. So that is a lot of incremental supply. And it's just ironic that we had this live stream planned and I got that email this morning. I was like, that's awesome. Great minds are thinking alike, I think. So
There you go.
So can we run out of natural gas storage, Bill?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we will have arguments that what that number is, and it appears to be around 4 TCF. There's people who say there's 4.1, 4.3, 4 point even.
You know what the
We've
absolute
tested.
capacity is on working capacity?
Well, I know they're saying it's 4 point. I was saying it's 4.3. What are you seeing?
No, it's 4.8. That
See,
is
I
the
don't believe that.
working gas. However, there
I don't
is,
believe that.
well, it gets into the topic of what we're talking about today. That is the working gas nameplate of the storage capacity per the EIA.
Right.
So the working gas, the actual storage capacity is actually over 9, but the working is 4.8. So
It's a job only an elf can do.
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
so can we run out of natural gas storage? Well, the question on everybody's mind, power source, natural gas, powers homes, industries, daily life, storage concerns
Yeah.
have become a greater issue. As a matter of fact, last year, let's take a look at this. Last year, when we go to storage, and let me take this off right here and there. Look at this individual week. This individual week was 326 BCF taken out in 1 week. That's what we took out in that one single week. So with weather shifts, with weather changes, and as NGI aptly is pointing out, we have an additional 10 BCF a day of incremental LNG exports that are coming. So
Right.
now what we wanted to do is take a step back. There's 4.8 TCF in working gas storage capacity. What does that actually mean? And that's where we're going to really talk about it. So let's take a look at some changes. Storage capacity versus supply and demand.
So let me ask you a question. Let's take a look. So you said there's 4.8 TCF.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying there's 4 TCF. So there's 800 BCF different, right? Than what I say than what you say.
Yes.
So based on that primary one day where we pulled out 300 BCF out of storage, we're talking 2 days. 3 days at the most.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're saying that sounds like a lot, but when you can take out 300 BCF in a day,
or said a different way, 10% of our storage capacity, roughly 10% will disappear. For example, right now, what is our current storage level? We are at 3.9 TCF. So that would almost take off 10%, probably 8.5%, 9%. So
2 days of that would do what?
2 days of that would take us probably 16% off of where we were. Well, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That was in a week, not a day.
That was in a week. Okay.
That was in a week. That was a
All right.
weekly frequency, not a daily frequency.
You look like a deranged Easter bunny.
Merry Christmas.
So what we wanted to do is take a step back. We've already talked, we've hinted a little bit of foreshadowing on the 4.8 versus 4 TCF, right? Which is working gas capacity versus absolute capacity. So what we want to do is take a step back and take a look at from 2009 to 2023. 2009 to 2023. How much storage capacity did we increase in the United States?
Oh, yeah, like you got to 7% in 14 years. In 14 years.
In 14 years, we increased the storage capacity on working gas. So that's 7.9% to 4.8. So that's a separate conversation we're going to get into. What is our production growth during that time?
It's pretty serious here, brother.
It's massive. Over 40 BCF a day of production growth in the United States. Now, what about our demand growth during that period? A lot of people skip this.
Yeah. So the 26 BCF a day of growth, most of which, or at least half of which, came through LNG.
No. That's not counting LNG. That is raw demand in the United States of power, residential, commercial, industrial. That has nothing to do with exports. Wow. Demand growth increased by 26 BCF a day during that period.
Well, that means we got more bodies and more manufacturing going on.
More manufacturing, more power. Because what has happened? What has happened?
And
more of these.
Yeah, and more of it's conversion from coal to gas.
In 2009, a household was probably lucky to have one of these. Now you probably have 5 of them. So all those little bitty pieces of electronics that you have in your house, power.
Yep.
And
then
your
charger's plugged in, you get to burn more power anyway, even if it's not attached to your phone.
Yeah, a disproportionate amount of the 26 BCF it is power. Now
you're coming to 23 too. So you're talking about server farms and the beginning, not even at medium yet, the beginning of AI.
Yep. Now, what you'll also notice is that exports grew by how much, Bill?
14 to LNG, and then you grew about 3, I think, going to Mexico.
Yep, 18 BCF a day is what we grew. Now, what you'll notice here, notice something. These are annualized numbers, okay? And there's a reason for that because we have seasonal variances. One quick look on the demand side of the equation is going to show you that we have periods where we go up and down, up and down. The gap is filled by storage. In other words, when demand is low down here, we are actually injecting, and when demand is high right here, we're withdrawing. So storage solves for this gap on timing difference, okay? So we inject and we withdraw. That is actually what storage does, because what you'll notice is production grew by 40 BCF a day, demand grew by 26 BCF, add in 18 to that, you're getting 44 BCF a day. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That's actually what's interesting. So storage capacity. Now, what does that mean on a per day basis, BCF per day basis? Storage grew by, if you divide the working capacity by 365, 1.64 BCF a day. Production grew by 47 BCF a day. Demand 26, exports by over 17. Let's visualize that. What does that look like? Do you even see storage?
Early over there. Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's right here. So on a scale perspective, exports grew by a lot, demand grew by a lot, production grew by a lot. And when you look at it, I should have probably stacked exports and demand, but
Right.
that's kind of what we are looking at. So when we compare this, storage capacity has really not grown very much. So
So
who are these guys?
I think I recognize one of those guys. The other guy looks really old. He's probably a fossil.
I threw this picture in. It's a really big picture. That's a big picture. Let me actually
That's a lot of picture of a ceiling. That's what I'm looking
decrease
at.
the size of that. I don't want
Yeah.
to stare at those guys too much.
There you go.
So who are we? We are Energy Rogue, and we help traders make more profit, producers make higher netbacks, consumers save energy costs. How? With Rogue Radar, which includes a PDF report, a video, and a daily email. And then Rogue Edge, which allows you to have community input. We have a Discord channel that is private, that people from around the globe, we're in 5 different continents, have input on your strategy. We have people in Europe, we have people in Australia, people in Asia, people we don't have South America. We have Puerto Rico, but we don't have South America. So that's what's interesting. I would think we would.
You would think we'd have somebody up in
But
Venezuela or Brazil.
But let me give you a preview of what Rogue Radar is. You get this PDF report coming out every week that talks about the key events. This is per some of our membership. This is everything that I want to know in a condensed format that's easy to read. And Rogue Radar is your complete energy market intelligence solution. And how much is it, Bill?
Rogue Radar is $89 a month.
Yep.
Every month, but it's
Yep.
$79 a month. That is cheaper than your Starbucks on a monthly basis.
Yep. And you'll get that PDF report. You'll get a daily email that is going to tell you, it's kind of like a blast. You're going to get weekly video insights, and it is going to give you conveniently support and resistance levels. And those support and resistance levels, if you're looking at the market on any individual day, those come in key. Then what do you get on Rogue Edge? You get access to our private Discord channel, custom strategy and insights, in-week video updates, a Q&A with our team of experts, and one-on-one monthly meetings. So that's who these
For
guys
one,
are.
for one $79 a month. And let me tell you something, folks, that is cheaper than 2 days of your bar bill after 2 days of bad trading.
If you're serious, if you or your company is impacted by the prices of natural gas, crude oil, refined products, natural gas liquids, or electricity, you should arm yourself with information. And your choices are simple. You can spend over 30 hours a week looking it up, or you can subscribe, to a service like ours. So,
So just to make this sound impressive, between Brian and I, we have 3/4 of a century of experience. We can help you.
geez. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that's a lot.
Pretty ugly, isn't it?
So anyway, energyrogue.com. We'd love to see you. It's $89 a month, and you'll get a PDF report and a weekly video. That is going to save you 20 hours a week. And then if you want insight on your individual strategy, that is Rogue Edge at $179 a month. If you're interested, sign up. There's information below, or you can go to energyrogue.com and sign up there. So back to our discussion. Let me actually go up here because again, storage growth from 2009 to 2023. I took 2023 because it was an annualized number. And even though we're almost done with 2024, we don't have the numbers in quite yet. So
I think 2023 is probably one of closer to a normal number as opposed to anything that's been affected by 2020.
I mean, on a BCF a day perspective, this is working capacity growth from 2009 to 2023, and storage only grew by 1.64 BCF a day, production over 47, demand over 26 BCF a day, and exports over 17. So, what's the role of exports in those disruptions? Well, the US has gone from exporting zero. Well, I say zero. Let's actually look. This goes back to 2016. So this is only going to take us back to 2016, but let's look at this real quick. In 2016, we were exporting 3.4 BCF to Mexico and 0.5 on LNG. What is happening on LNG, Bill?
Yeah, that's the biggest growth area we have in demand right now, period.
Well, if we look at these, let's look at, there we go, LNG from half a BCF to over 14. Now let's look at Mexico from 3.4 up to 6.7. So almost a 50% move there. So
Oh, well, you're doing your percentages wrong. That's a 100% move.
or 100%. Yes, you're right. So exports, supply vulnerabilities, and crisis resilience. So what happens fundamentally when storage is full?
So what you see, physically, what you're doing is you're filling a cavity with gas. The closer it gets to full, the more resistance you have of it going in. Now, it really doesn't matter from about 20% up to about 80%. But when you get past that 80%, some of these storage caverns, now they all act different. A cavern acts different than um, reservoir, but you get resistance coming back, so it takes more pressure, more compression to get into the uh, cavern or reservoir.
So essentially, when you're up here, right? When you're up at the end of the injection season and you have a lot in storage, it's harder to inject more.
Right. And that's why you start seeing the injection amounts go down as you get toward the end of the ejection season.
Because more
Because,
pressure is in the reservoir, so it's
well, it
harder.
just, and there's economics in play there. I mean, you can get enough compression to do it, but you're burning almost as much compression as you're injecting into the reservoir or the cavern.
So the fuller the balloon is, the fuller the storage cavern is, the harder you have to blow. The
Right.
harder you have to inject. And
And then
then
there's a max pressure that you can actually put in those caverns before you start pushing it out into other areas. You don't want to crater a cavern by any stretch of imagination. Not that I don't think we have compression big enough to do that, but you don't want to. And in reservoirs, what they'll do if you're pushing into a reservoir, it'll start seeping through the rock. And so once again, you don't want to put gas in that you're not going to get back out.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yeah, probably not.
so in essence, when you are at the low point, or that we're only talking about the high point. When you're at the high points, it's harder to inject more. And it's easier to inject or to withdraw, right?
Right, right.
More
So
full
that's
it is, the more full it is, harder to inject, easier to withdraw.
right. And even when it's easier to inject, you still have the actual capacity constraint of the pipe sizes going in. So you can only pull so much off of the pipes to go into storage.
Yep. So put simply, the more full storage is, the harder it is to inject, the easier it is to withdraw, right?
That's right. There you go.
All right. So the more empty it is, and again, we're talking probably in the deep part of winter, the more empty it is. Now let's look at that
right
case.
there is usually about March, if I remember right. If you look at that, that's usually about March.
Yep, that is March. The more empty, the less pressure that you need to fill. So it's easier to inject, but it's harder to withdraw. So if we have
Right.
late cold, if we have cold and we've withdrawn down here, said a different way, if we need that 326 BCF, it's easy to do here. It's hard to do here. Right?
And you'll see that those capacity right there, or the volume that's in storage,
Mm-hmm.
correlates directly with demand. And that's what storage was supposed to do, was to balance out demand versus production. That's
Right.
the whole point of storage. Now what storage is doing is demand and the variance of renewables and production.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you have a variance of, if you got, because people say, well, natural gas balances renewables. That's correct, but where does that natural gas come from? You don't just automatically pump up production in a 2-hour window. You don't. You get it from storage.
Right.
So it's natural gas, but it's coming from storage, and so that puts more variability on the storage coming out. Based when you start talking about renewables, the more renewables you have, the more volatility you'll have around storage in a facility that's not designed for volatility.
Right. Yep. So essentially, the more full you are, the harder it is to inject, the easier it is to withdraw, the least amount are on the low side. When you're on the low side in March, the harder it is to get molecules out. So if we have late cold, we might run into deliverability problems. It's something we have not covered in a couple of years because we've had a couple of warm winters right in a row. So now this season,
every window was flocked, every lamppost was dressed, and the 𝐒℠ville band marched in their Christmassy best.
There you go.
So this year, and part of our value proposition is we have insight and weather forecasts for our custom community, and that is actually incorporated into our service. So if you are in natural gas and you're watching this and you actually want access to that, I mean, people pay thousands of dollars a month, and we have a weather guru, Brendan, who has a phenomenal insight into the market. As a matter of fact, he came up with some great weather calls when it came to hurricane tracking. And as a matter of fact, NOAA and some other services were saying that some storms were going to go this way. And he said, nope, because of wind shear, it's going to go this way. And it actually did not impact supply the way that they thought. And because of that, it actually made some of our traders a lot of money. So,
Yeah, Brian, I think I have to disagree. I don't think he's a guru. I think he's more of a swami. I think that's
ooh,
really more. Yeah, I think we can get him like the traditional garb of a swami and put him to do his videos that way. Brendan, if you're listening, watch out. There may be an Amazon package coming your way.
well, well, the thing about weather is that it gets very model based, and there's a lot of statistical models, and typically when Brendan is talking to Bill and myself, he typically says,
I've been wearing the same underwear since Tuesday.
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
So
He is.
he
He
studies
does
a
get those
lot.
vampire hours, is what we call them.
Yeah, and
So,
usually
and
when
the thing about weather, and talking about this, Brian, a lot of people don't grasp this yet. As we pass beyond, say, 30 to somewhere between 25 and 30 degrees, the amount of gas per degree goes up that they need to heat. It's not a straight 45 degree. Um, that's why your heating degree days, it'll show heating degree days, but that heating degree days relationship to gas demand are not always the same because a degree day causes more gas consumption below 30 degrees than it does above 30 degrees.
right,
And I'm not sure if 30 degrees is that line, but it's between 25 and 30 because people feel colder and it takes more to cook. It takes more to heat up. If you're starting, if you have an ambient temperature outside of 20 degrees, then you have to start with the ambient temperature 30 degrees. This is not this is not rocket surgery. I mean, you can figure this out. But what I'm saying is that if you're drawing perfect 45-degree angles, it's not going to work. It's,
I know a lot about sharks.
there you go. And the shark graph would be that way.
Well, and here's the thing. If you are in natural gas, you need to be paying attention to weather. And we have this chart right here that actually tells us the direction. And when you look at what happened this week, a lot of people were surprised. Were surprised at why natural gas ran back up. And it ran back up because this is the new part of our forecast, which means rising demand, right? So
Right.
rising demand, and that impacted natural gas prices, which actually opened the week closer to closer to 305, 306, 307, and we gapped up and we went up because of that demand. So when we're looking at storage becomes a critical component of this. So the more full it is, the easier it is to withdraw, the harder it is to inject. The more empty it is, the easier it is to fill, the harder it is to withdraw, right?
Right. And so, and the other thing is that storage is not instantaneous. It's faster than production. You can bring it out faster than production, but it's not instantaneous.
Yep.
And so when you're looking for instantaneous, what you're doing is pipelines will pressure up their pipelines and try to live off the pressure of the pipeline as it goes down while they can bring storage on to begin to do that. And if they get too weak, you'll see these peaking demand things start to kick in. Because Brian, we've talked about how some of the utilities are now looking to LNG for their
Mm-hmm.
peaking demand. They
Yep.
used to use propane. Some people still use
No, they're
propane as their
they're still
signal.
using propane. As a matter of fact, there's some propane peakers going in.
And so storage is not instantaneous. And so that with the propane peakers is what they do is that's instantaneous. They can hit those, they can turn them on, it immediately starts. And that's to keep the pipeline pressure from getting too low.
Right.
because once it gets too low, it's not instantaneous to bring up. So all of this goes back to living in the instant world we live in. It's not it's not as easy as just, what do they always say on the news? Turning on a spigot. Yes. Aggravates
Were
the living.
these magic grits?
Exactly. And what would happen? What would happen if all this stuff goes bad?
All those who's down in Whoville will all cry.
They'll all cry. So again, when we're looking at storage at full capacity, there's going to be reduced injection rates and it's easier withdrawal. At the optimal range, which what did you say was 20 to 80%?
Yes, I think it's 20 to 80. It might be, you could probably go up to 90.
So, but it's 20 to 80% on what number though?
Oh,
I quoted
on the full store, on the
4.8.
full. Yeah, but I always go with 4 TCF. I mean, think about it. What's the
Well,
lowest you've seen
that's
storage?
above 80.
Yeah,
That's actually
yeah,
exactly, we were talking about 4.8 versus
right.
4. 4 is what everybody deems to where we're getting full, and above 4 TCF is when those pressures start to become a challenge. So
Right.
that's the reason that everybody hangs on a number of 4 TCF. But let's be clear, 4.8 TCF is the working gas capacity. And
If this was a conspiracy, they'd have to get all those people to lie.
According to
so
the EIA, right?
that is according to the EIA. So, and that doesn't encompass every storage in the United States, but the optimal range is that 20 to 80, near
Right.
empty, below 20, right? Below 20, we're going to
You're gonna
have
pay,
concerns.
yeah, below 20, you're gonna be paying a lot of money for gas.
Now, below 20, let's see the last time we were below
I don't
1
think we've ever been
TCF.
below 20. I think the
Uh,
closest we've ever been was 1.2.
I'm going to look and see. Back in 2019, we got to 1.1. Oh,
Oh, there it is. There it
2014.
is. There it
Whoa, look
is.
at that.
Yeah. It got below 1, didn't it?
2014. Look at that right there.
800, if I remember right.
Yeah. And that got us down to that 20. So the thing that I would keep in mind is between 1 BCF and 4 BCF, everything operates normally. Outside of that range, you're going to have incongruent operating parameters. For example, above 4 TCF, it's going to be harder to inject, easier to withdraw. Below, I'd call it 1.2 TCF, it's going to be easier to fill, harder to withdraw.
So
So,
let me give you a hasty generality on this. Okay. You get up toward that 4 BCF in the injection season, which is a shoulder month. That's going to drive your price down because there's not going to be a place for it to go with the gas.
right.
So you're going to end up with surplus gas.
Yep.
The contrary is true when you get down below, you get down even down to 1.2 TCF and you've got any bit of winter left in March, you're going to see the prices start popping up. Now, immediately as it gets to a certain level, those will both go the opposite direction.
Right. So when we stress test the scenario, surplus scenario, deficit scenario. So we talked about LNG. What happened to prices when Freeport had their accident back in 2022?
And they cratered because there was 2 BCF of gas thrown on the market.
Thrust back into the system, which actually overcomplicates things. So the higher dependency on exports.
There you go. There you go. And storage couldn't take it all.
Right. The higher dependency on exports means that there is a possibility, a likelihood that if surplus gets thrust back into the market, we're not going to have a place to put it. Conversely, let's look at a deficit scenario. When the winter storm Uri came through in 2021, What happened to prices? What happened to we couldn't meet the demand because production got knocked offline, and that meant prices went through the roof. They went up above 100, 200, 300, I heard 600. So in a surplus and deficit scenario, it means that every week looking at weather, looking at gas weighted degree days, this is important, and that's part of the reason that we weave the weather straight into our service, because it impacts. And this chart right here will tell you what it's going to do. And this spike right here, this is the reason we went above $3, because of that spike right there, that spike in weather. Right. So in a surplus scenario, deficit scenario, and market impacts, these are the key values. And so what do you do from here? You got to monitor weather. You got to look at the infrastructure investment, which is actually what NGI was referencing here, that we desperately need more storage capacity. So monitoring weather, short-term monitoring weather, long-term monitoring infrastructure, policy, market flexibility. These are the things and the building blocks that that we need to look at when we look at storage and we look at deliverability. Right, Bill?
I mean, the bottom line is if it's got nowhere to go, price goes down. If it's got somewhere to go, price evens out a little bit. And if we don't have enough storage, the more we do on production and the more we do on exports, storage is not going to be able to swing fast enough or deep enough to cover any outages on the side.
I already know this from some of the utilities we work with.
Right.
And I know it from the producers that we work with, the pipeline pressures. So the thing is that this is a problem that many people don't see, but it is a problem. And it is, as evidenced by NGI's article today, it is going to be something that is going to be top of mind and very important. And you need to stay on top of weather. You need to stay on top of supply, demand, storage levels, which is part of the reason we came up with Rogue Radar, so that you could conveniently see storage, weather, production, imports, demand, all of this in one place conveniently right for you, so you don't have to go searching around for that stuff.
The mind is the only weapon that doesn't need a holster.
So looking at this, what's his storage?
European storage.
So why is that important?
It's important because as we are looking at European storage, if our LNG becomes, well, let's say it this way. If European storage is close to full, our LNG cargoes may not have a place to go. If Asia is not taking the cargoes, this is the reason that we track it. And a month ago, European storage was at 96%. Look how much it's dropped. It's dropped to 84.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, that all happened within a week almost.
Yep. And the numbers JKM and TTF, those numbers have gone up significantly. Those were around 10, 11. Mexico, but Mexico's looking strong. LNG is looking strong. Demand's coming in. However, we do have a lot of production online, and it's the fourth quarter, which means more production is coming. Canadian imports are high. Weather is looking bullish, but storage is looking bearish. That's the reason we came up with Rogue Radar, which again is only $89 a month.
Even at Starbucks every day. If you're doing Starbucks every day, you can afford Rogue Radar, and I promise you the return will be better than Starbucks.
Yeah. So I think that's all we have. Hit us up. Let us know if you have any questions. You can also email us at rogue@energyrogue.com. That goes to both Bill and myself, and we are here to help you. This was a question that came up in our community, and we thought it would be worthwhile to really talk about this this topic. And it is something to monitor. It is something to look at. The fact we didn't go over 4 TCF this year is a blessing because it would be a little bit more difficult to inject right now.
And the other thing is that when you think about storage, you look at the 5-year on natural gas. Can you justify spending money on storage? Because it's going to take a lot of money to build it, and you got to be able to get it back. So that's
Right.
why you see the hesitating storage. Guys, listen, it's just one of the many things that we follow. It's one of the many things that are important to knowing how the energy market functions and what can blindside you if you're not paying attention. So sign up Energy Rogue, get Rogue Radar or get Rogue Edge. Either one's going to help you. Rogue Edge is going to help you the most. We do this because Brian and I know what we're talking about for the most part, unless you ask us about some strange thing that actually we might know more about strange things than you do about regular things, but that's just who we are. But sign up.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
There you go. And listen, let me tell you, Brian, I've just been meaning to tell you this because you're such a close brother.
Call me Elf one more time.
Yes, I have been called short, and yes, I am short. So for those that are watching, listen, thanks so much. Thanks for listening to us. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight and a little bit of a perspective on storage, and let us know in the comments if you liked it, if you don't like it, or if you want to hear about something else. Let us know, like, share, and subscribe, because all that truly helps. So that's all we got. Any parting words, Bill?
Nope. You guys have a safe week. If you're traveling, be careful and listen, reach out, help somebody today.
Yep. Be kind, be courteous. So until next week, hope you have a great one.